The vast, unending expanse of the Central Asian steppe lay exposed under a freezing eternal sky, a land of ancient spirits and unforgiving freedom. It was a cradle of empires, and the graveyard of many who dared to challenge its wild heart. Young Temujin, though not yet a horse lord, carried the weight of the grasslands on his shoulders. He was the last shaman of the Golden Horde, a tribe now scattered and broken by the expansionist forces from the east. His duty was simple, yet impossible: prevent the empire of the Great Khan, led by the ruthless General Borte, from seizing the ultimate weapon of the steppe. Borte's cavalry moved like a dark tide, their banners snapping in the constant wind, symbolizing a disciplined force that respected only power and conquest, not the spiritual balance of the land. The general sought the lost map of the earth spirits, a legendary artifact said to be woven from the roots of the world, capable of commanding the geological forces of the entire region. This map was not parchment, but a living nexus of geomancy, a way to unleash earthquakes, open hidden mountain passes, or bury entire armies under rockslides. Temujin was sheltered in a makeshift gair near the sacred mountain, Kiksirk, where the earth spirits, the Ongans, were believed to congregate and watch over the land. The shaman's only possession of value was a bone compass that spun wildly, pointing only to the shifting spiritual centers of the steppe. Useless for mundane navigation. One cold twilight, Temujin entered a trance, seeking guidance from the Skyfather and the fierce Earth Mother. His vision was a torrent of dust, blood, and collapsing stone. An ancestral spirit, a wizened woman named Alton, appeared before him, her eyes the color of polished jade, stern and deeply worried. "The map is waking, young shaman," Alton warned, her voice rustling like dry grass in the wind. Borte's scholars are close to finding its gateway in the Serpent's Pass. She explained that the map was hidden not on the surface, but in the deep earth consciousness of Kiksirk, locked by 3 ritual seals. Temujin's mission was to activate those seals before Borte's forces could locate and exploit the final gateway. It was a race against both horsemen and clockwork logistics. The first seal, Alton revealed, required the breath of the west wind, found at the highest, most exposed ridge where the winds gathered their ancient memories. The second needed the echo of the ancestral battle, the lingering psychic imprint of a forgotten battle fought in a haunted canyon far to the south. The final and most crucial seal demanded the tears of the steppe wolf, a rare spiritual token of loyalty from the wild creatures of the plains. Temujin awoke, the cold reality of the task settling in his bones. He secured his gear, a bow, a single yakskin waterskin, and his spiritual bone compass. He mounted his tough, wiry pony Bayon, whose hooves were as hard as ironwood, and they rode out into the heart of the great unknown. The steppe stretched before him, an ocean of yellow and brown, where every dune and ridge looked identical. But Temujin relied on the compass and his innate shamanic sense. He pushed Bayon for 3 days, covering immense distances, sleeping little, always feeling the approaching thunder of Borte's massive army behind him. The first destination was the wind-wailing ridge, a jagged line of rock standing alone in the plain, perpetually battered by the strongest gales. Reaching the base was treacherous. The wind tore at his cloak and threatened to rip the saddle from his horse. Temujin had to proceed on foot, battling the invisible force. He climbed higher until the air was thin and the noise was a deafening, constant howl. He located the place where the wind seemed to concentrate, creating a hollow. This was where the wind's consciousness gathered, carrying the breath of 1,000 storms and the whispers of fallen nomads. Temujin performed a brief ritual, opening his senses to the invisible currents and using a small, woven leather bag to catch the compressed, frozen energy of the gale. He sealed the leather bag. The first seal was collected, feeling cold and strangely heavy, vibrating with latent atmospheric power. He descended the ridge just as he spotted the first signs of Borte's scouts, a small party on the horizon, their movements signaling a disciplined, methodical search. He spurred Bayon to a frantic gallop, riding through a hidden cleft in the rocks that only a local would know, disappearing from the enemy's sight just in time. The second seal required a journey south to the Canyon of the Broken Shields, a place cursed by the violence of an ancient, devastating civil war. Legends claimed that the blood spilled there had infused the canyon walls, and the cries of the dead repeated eternally in the echoes. Temujin arrived in the canyon, a narrow, dark slash in the earth, where the temperature immediately dropped and the atmosphere felt oppressive and heavy. He found the central battlefield a dry, alkaline patch, littered with shattered, brittle fragments of forgotten iron and bone, too old to be touched by rust. He sat down and began the ritual of resonance, beating a simple drum and chanting ancient words to open a spiritual pathway to the past. Soon, the air filled with the phantom sounds of clashing swords, the panicked whinnies of horses, and the desperate shouts of dying warriors. The sounds were overwhelming, a traumatic experience where Temujin felt the pain and terror of the ancestral battle surge through him like a physical blow. He captured the residual, traumatic energy, the echo of the ancestral battle in a polished agate stone, which instantly turned dark and warm with psychic heat. Now, with 2 seals secured, Temujin turned back towards Keeksirk, the sacred mountain, knowing the final seal would be the most unpredictable. The tears of the steppe wolf could not be demanded or captured. They had to be given by the wild heart of the steppe itself. He traveled carefully, traversing the rolling hills, always watchful for the dark banners of Borte, whose main force was now moving quickly towards the Serpent's Pass. Borte's general staff had successfully decrypted the first few layers of geomantic lore. Confirming that the map was indeed tied to Keeksirk, Temujin knew he was running out of time. His only respite was the brief, silent hour before dawn, when the wild animals were most active and least wary. It was in one such dawn hour that he encountered the great steppe wolf, a massive, solitary creature with fur the color of winter snow. The wolf was caught in an iron trap, set clumsily by one of Borte's forward hunting parties who needed meat for their vast numbers. Temujin approached cautiously, respecting the creature's immense strength and its primal, predatory instincts. He knew one wrong move would mean death. The wolf snarled, its teeth bared, but its eyes, surprisingly, held a deep, old wisdom. Recognizing Temujin's shamanic bond with the earth, Temujin spoke softly to the animal, not with human language, but with the sympathetic clicks and low hums of the earth spirits, calming its fear. He carefully released the locking mechanism of the trap, freeing the wolf's massive injured leg, working swiftly but gently. The wolf did not immediately run, studied the young shaman, its hot breath misting in the cold air, observing the genuine respect in his actions. Then, the creature did the unimaginable. It lowered its head and allowed a single, large, crystalline tear to fall from its eye onto Temujin's palm. The tear was instantly cool and refreshing, a token of unbreakable bond and profound animal loyalty, the tears of the steppe wolf. Temujin sealed the tear in a small, smooth river stone, feeling the final seal's warmth and the spiritual readiness of the map's components. He thanked the wolf with a bow, and the majestic creature disappeared into the gray pre-dawn light, a silent promise of the wild power that now aided him. With all 3 seals collected, Temujin rode hard toward Keeksirk, the mountain towering over the plains like a great, sleeping giant. The massive army of General Borte was already surrounding the mountain's base, setting up siege camps and preparing to breach the Serpent's Pass. Temujin found a hidden path known only to his ancestors, winding steeply up the eastern face, concealed by a seemingly impassable rockfall. He dismounted Bayon, whispering a promise to return, and began the final, desperate climb, using his hands and feet to ascend the sheer stone. He reached the summit, a desolate plateau where the wind bit relentlessly and the earth spirits manifested as dancing, dust-filled eddies. At the center of the plateau was a large, flat basalt rock carved with complex, swirling geometric patterns, the gateway to the map. Borte's men, having finally broken through the Serpent's Pass, began their relentless ascent, their triumphant shouts echoing up the mountain slopes. Temujin knelt by the basalt rock. He had moments before the first wave of soldiers reached the summit and ended his quest. He placed the leather bag Westwind, the agate stone ancestral echo, the riverstone wolf's tear into 3 small depressions in the rock. The moment the components settled, the basalt glowed with an internal subterranean green light, and the rock began to slowly, geometrically descend. The earth spirits accepted his offering. The gateway opened, revealing not a cavity, but a shimmering 3-dimensional representation of the steppe itself. This was the lost map of the earth spirits, a living tapestry of rock, light, and energy, pulsing with the geological forces of the entire continent. As Temujin reached out to touch the map, General Borte himself, flanked by his elite guards, crested the summit. "The shamanic trickery ends here, nomad," Borte roared, drawing his massive, curved saber, certain of his victory. "The power of the land belongs to the Great Khan." Temujin ignored the general, his hand now resting on the map, feeling the slow, powerful pulse of the planet beneath his fingers. He didn't want to control it. He wanted to ask it to defend itself, to act in accordance with its natural protective will. Focusing all his gathered spiritual power, Temujin called upon the fiercest earth spirit, the one tasked with protecting the sanctity of Keek-Sirk. He didn't speak words, but projected pure intent, defense, preserve the balance, push back the disrespect. The map instantly flared, sending a wave of green-gold energy shooting up into the sky and deep into the mountain's core. Borte's men rushed forward, but before they could close the distance, the ground beneath their feet began to violently buck and surge. It was not a random tremor. It was a targeted, catastrophic geological event, commanded by the living consciousness of the map. A massive, deep chasm ripped open precisely between Temujin and Borte's advancing guards, swallowing 3 of the general's most trusted horsemen whole. The entire summit of Keek-Sirk began to groan and shift. Immense boulders, stabilized for millennia, suddenly broke loose and plunged down the slopes. The rock slides swept Borte's surrounding army, shattering their disciplined formations and scattering their supply lines below. General Borte himself, reeling from the sudden violence, found his horse struggling to keep its footing on the convulsing stone. Impossible. No mere magic can do this. Borte screamed, his face contorted in a mixture of fear and profound confusion. Temujin was barely standing, the immense power of the earth spirits coursing through him, his body vibrating with the mountain's destructive force. He pointed his hand toward the Serpent's Pass, the main entry point Borte had used, and issued his final, urgent command to the map, with a grinding sound that echoed across the entire steppe. A vast section of the pass's cliff face collapsed inward, sealing the path completely. Borte's entire army was now trapped, divided, and utterly broken by the raw, untamed power of the land they sought to conquer. The general watched in horror as his vast forces were rendered impotent, their heavy armor and discipline completely irrelevant against the fury of the Earth Mother. Temujin released his connection, the green glow of the map subsiding, as the mountain grew still, and the chilling wind was the only sound. Borte, defeated and enraged, turned his weapon on Temujin, but before he could move, a sudden localized tremor caused him to lose his footing. The general was flung backward, his weapon skittering away, landing near the edge of the chasm that now bisected the summit. Temujin looked down at the map, which now began to slowly dissolve, the shimmering light receding back into the heart of the mountain. The map was not meant to be owned. It was a connection, a temporary bridge between the human world and the Earth's spirits, used only in defense. General Borte and his remaining elite guard were left stranded on the summit, humiliated and cut off, facing a hopeless retreat back across the hostile steppe. Temujin descended the mountain, his strength slowly returning, leaving the disgraced general to face the severe consequences of his failure. The scattered remnants of the Golden Horde and the neighboring Horselord tribes, witnessing the miraculous targeted disaster, understood that the steppe was protected. They recognized the power of shamanism, the ancient knowledge that connected them not just to each other, but to the very soul of the land. The retreat of Borte's legions marked a crucial turning point, proving that military expansion was futile against the deep magic of the steppe empires. Temujin, now hailed as the true shaman of the steppe, dedicated his life to teaching respect for the earth spirits and the fragile, vital balance. He knew the map was asleep again, waiting for the next great threat, its existence a secret known only to the horse lords in the wind. The vastness of the steppe was safe, preserved by the power of its ancestors and the raw, unpredictable magic of the earth. Temujin mounted Bayan, now rested and restored, and rode out across the peaceful plain, the bone compass now pointing steadily, surely home. The map was lost once more, but its influence lingered, a silent testament to the moral, respect the land or face its wrath. If you were captivated by this historical fantasy of horse lords and shamanic power, comment, like, share, and subscribe to Storycraft Studio.